She called him unfit for this school in front of everyone. But just 1 week later, the same teacher was forced to apologize on stage, with tears in her eyes. He wasn't just another student. He was the son of the very man funding the school's future. But the truth he revealed that day taught everyone what real class means. The morning bell echoed through the marble halls of Crestview. Academy, a school known for its elite students, expensive cars, and flawless uniforms. But for Marcus, a 16-year-old black student on scholarship, it was a battlefield dressed as a school. He walked into class, his books worn but clean, his eyes filled with quiet determination. His classmates whispered when he passed, some smirked, others simply stared. He'd learned to ignore it. Until today. "Marcus," said Mrs. Reynolds, the teacher, her tone sharp as chalk scraping the board. "You're late again." "I was helping the janitor pick up the science boxes," Marcus replied softly. Her eyebrows lifted. "You mean you were doing his job? Maybe that's where you actually belong." The class froze. A few students laughed. Marcus's throat tightened. He didn't know whether to defend himself or stay silent. "Next time," she continued, "try being on time. This school has standards. We can't keep lowering them for everyone." She didn't say black kids. She didn't have to. The tone said it all. Marcus sat down, his hands clenched under the desk. He didn't cry. He didn't talk back. But his silence spoke louder than any protest. Because across the hallway, the school's new donor, a quiet man in a dark suit, had just entered. No one knew who he was yet. And in a few days, this man would change Marcus's life forever and make the entire school regret that one cruel moment. That afternoon, the laughter from class still echoed in Marcus's mind long after the final bell. He sat alone beneath the old oak tree behind the cafeteria, his usual spot when the world felt too loud. The pages of his notebook fluttered in the wind, covered in sketches of mechanical engines and equations he dreamed of one day building for NASA. Every dream felt impossible here. Every compliment came with surprise, every mistake with judgment. Inside the teacher's lounge, Mrs. Reynolds poured herself coffee, sighing dramatically. "That scholarship boy Marcus, he's bright, but he doesn't fit here," she said. Another teacher nodded awkwardly. "You mean, because of his background?" Mrs. Reynolds smirked. "Let's just say this school isn't exactly built for kids like him." Unaware that someone else was listening. From the corner table, the quiet man in the dark suit, the same one who'd entered earlier, looked up. His sharp eyes didn't miss a word. His name was Mr. Cole, a wealthy investor visiting the school board that week. The principal had been courting his funding for months to expand the Academy's science program. Later that evening, Mr. Cole walked through the halls alone. He stopped outside a classroom and saw the blackboard still filled with names, formless, and one note written in messy chalk: "Dream big even when they don't believe you." It was signed Marcus W. He smiled faintly. "A kid with fight," he whispered. The next morning, during the school assembly, the principal proudly announced, "Everyone, please welcome our potential donor, Mr. Ethan Cole, who's considering sponsoring a new science lab for Crestview Academy." The crowd clapped except for Marcus, who stood silently near the back. Mr. Cole scanned the audience until his eyes met Marcus's, just for a second, but it was enough. Recognition flickered there like a spark. After the event, Marcus was summoned to the principal's office. Mrs. Reynolds was already there, arms crossed, smirking. "Don't worry," she said sweetly. "You're not in trouble yet." The principal cleared his throat. "Marcus, Mr. Cole would like to meet you." Marcus turned to see the same man from the hall. Tall, calm, but with eyes that saw straight through the walls people built. "Your teachers tell me you're quite passionate about science," he said. "Yes, sir," Marcus replied, voice quiet but firm. Mrs. Reynolds interrupted. "He's bright but lacks discipline. You know how it is." Her tone carried the same poison, soft enough to sound polite, sharp enough to wound. But Mr. Cole didn't reply. Instead, he reached for Marcus's notebook sitting on the desk. Inside were designs for a solar-powered drone. Detailed, precise, and brilliant. He closed the notebook gently. "I think discipline isn't what he lacks," Mr. Cole said. "It's opportunity." Mrs. Reynolds stiffened. I didn't mean..." But he was already standing. "Sometimes," he said, turning toward the window, "we confuse privilege for potential. And that's the biggest mistake any educator can make." Marcus watched him walk away, heart pounding. Who was this man? And why did he care so much? Later that night, Mrs. Reynolds received an email marked, "Confidential. Meeting scheduled tomorrow. Board of Directors." She didn't know it yet, but that meeting would expose everything she'd tried to hide behind her polite smile. And for the first time in Crestview Academy's history, The one being judged was about to be the teacher, not the student. The morning sun spilled through the glass windows of Crestview Academy, but the halls didn't feel bright that day. Whispers ran through the corridors about a board meeting, about a mysterious donor, about a teacher who might lose her job. Mrs. Reynolds walked briskly, her usual confidence cracking beneath her perfect smile. Every step echoed louder than it should have. Inside the conference room, the entire staff sat stiffly around the long oak table. The principal at the head, the board members to his right, and at the far end, Mr. Ethan Cole, calm, silent, observing. Mrs. Reynolds adjusted her blazer and greeted him. "Mr. Cole, I hope yesterday's misunderstanding didn't leave a wrong impression." He didn't answer immediately. He simply turned to the board and said, "Before we continue, I'd like to share something I learned about one of your students." The room fell quiet. He pulled out Marcus's worn notebook, the same one filled with sketches of engines and handwritten dreams. "This belongs to Marcus Williams," he said softly. "A boy your teacher publicly humiliated." Mrs. Reynolds' face tightened. I never meant—" Mr. Cole interrupted gently. "I've seen prejudice before, but rarely this openly, in a place that calls itself an academy of excellence." The principal frowned. "Mr. Cole, I assure you, we don't tolerate discrimination here." "Don't you?" Cole replied. "Because I was standing right there, when your teacher tore down a student's dignity in front of his class." The room froze. Every teacher turned toward Mrs. Reynolds, her hands trembling now. I was only trying to teach discipline." "No," he said firmly. "You were teaching humiliation. There's a difference." Marcus stood outside the glass door, waiting. He didn't know what was happening inside, only that his stomach twisted with nerves. Mr. Cole took a deep breath. "Let me tell you why I'm really here." The principal leaned forward. "Years ago," Cole began, "my own mother cleaned classrooms like this. She used to come home covered in chalk dust, humiliated, underpaid, ignored. One day, a teacher told her that her son would never amount to anything, because kids like him don't belong in schools like this." He paused, eyes burning into Mrs. Reynolds. "That boy and all was me." A stunned silence filled the room. Mrs. Reynolds' lips parted, but no words came. The board members looked at each other, the story slicing through their polished pride like a knife. "I built my company from nothing," Cole continued quietly, "and I donate to schools like this because I believed in giving kids like Marcus a chance I never had. But today I realize money can't fix what arrogance breaks." The principal tried to recover. "Mr. Cole, please, we'll handle this." But Cole raised his hand. "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for reflection." He stood up, pushing Marcus's notebook gently across the table. "That boy deserves an apology. Not because he's poor, not because he's black, but because he showed more class in silence than some of us show in power." Mrs. Reynolds looked down, her voice barely a whisper. "You're right." Cole turned toward the door. "Bring Marcus in." The door opened slowly. Marcus stepped in, confused, eyes darting from face to face. Mrs. Reynolds swallowed hard, then stood. Her pride, her authority both gone. "Marcus," she said, voice trembling. "I'm sorry. I spoke to you in a way no teacher ever should." The boy didn't respond at first. He looked at Mr. Cole, the stranger who had turned his humiliation into justice, and nodded slowly. "Thank you," Marcus said softly. "But I don't need an apology. I just want a chance to prove I belong here." Mr. Cole smiled faintly. "You already have." The room fell silent. Outside, the students began whispering. Word was spreading. By lunchtime, everyone knew. The scholarship kid had stood taller than the ones born with everything. As everyone in the hall stared in silence, the school principal's voice echoed through the room. "Jason," she said firmly, "is this true?" Jason, still sweating, mumbled, I didn't mean to. It was just a joke." But the principal didn't smile. Neither did anyone else. Even the millionaire Mr. Reynolds looked disappointed. He stood up, his voice calm but powerful. "A joke? Do you realize what your joke did? You made a student feel small just because of her color. That's not a joke, that's weakness." The entire hall fell completely silent. Every eye was on Jason, who now looked down in shame. Mr. Reynolds walked toward Aisha and said gently, "You stood up for yourself with dignity, even when humiliated. That's real strength. I came here to fund this school, but now I want to fund something bigger." He turned to the audience. "I'll create a scholarship in Aisha's name for every student who's ever been judged unfairly." Gasps filled the room. Aisha's eyes widened as tears streamed down her face. Jason's friends avoided eye contact, their arrogance replaced with guilt. Mr. Reynolds placed a hand on Aisha's shoulder. "Never forget," he said. "Respect has no color. But ignorance does, and it always fades when truth shines." The crowd stood up and applauded. Some teachers wiped their eyes. Even the students who once laughed were clapping now. Jason approached Aisha slowly. "I'm sorry, I really am," he said quietly. Aisha looked at him hurt but calm. "I forgive you," she said. "But next time think before you laugh." The bell rang but nobody moved. The moment was too powerful to break. In that one instant, everyone in the hall learned a lesson no book could teach. Humanity doesn't come in shades, it comes in actions. As the camera zoomed out, Aisha walked out of the hall, sunlight touching her face. The background faded to black, and the words appeared on screen. "Respect has no color. Only character does."